we've committed to evolving at a pace that is very different from how we've evolved in the past couple of years.
Wow.
And this is in recognition of how the environment around us in terms of technology and the business environment and the political environment is evolving.
Welcome to the Trailblazers podcast presented by BST Global, where we feature the visionaries who are shaping the future of the AEC industry. My name is Eileen Canady, Chief Marketing Officer at BST Global, and your host on today's podcast. Joining me today for the second time on our show, we have Tembi Holmes, Global Chief Data Officer at Arup. Welcome, Tembi.
Eileen, thank you. I'm really thrilled to be back.
Since the last time you were here on our podcast, your leadership has continued to evolve across both tech and professional services. Can you talk about what maybe has evolved from last year to this year in how you're driving your global data strategy?
What's evolved when I compare last year to this year is the pace. Our industry, like I spoke about last time, I feel is a little behind in terms of just table stakes ways of operating when you compare to financial services, which I put as the leader. When you compare to healthcare, which is fast evolving. When you look at manufacturing, which has a standard and consistent way of handling data. And so the difference between last year and this year at Arup is our commitment to pace in terms of transformation and evolution of our firm.
So you're saying that in the last year, pace has even sped up?
Yes, we have.
From the years prior?
Yes. We have a new strategy, and that strategy is basically the future we choose. And as a leadership team and our board and our trustee board, we've committed to evolving at a pace that is very different from how we've evolved in the past couple of years. And this is in recognition of how the environment around us in terms of technology and the business environment and the political environment is evolving.
Well, that's exciting and scary at the same time, right? Let's just stick with exciting. So Arup's mission is to shape a better world through technical excellence and sustainability. How has Arup's mission influenced the direction of your team's priorities over the past year?
We always keep our mission in mind because when you think about the future, it's making sure that Mother Earth can still sustain us as humans. And infrastructure and transportation have quite a significant impact on the health of Mother Earth. And when you look at architecture, engineering, and design firms, we can play a big role in influencing that. So that hasn't changed. We've just committed to making sure that we harness the evolving technology to be able to drive our mission and deliver our projects with our mission in mind.
And can you reacquaint the audience about Arup and basically the background of some of the projects that we're seeing here on the screen behind us?
So Arup is a collective of engineers and architects and designers. Like you said, our mission is really to make sure that our projects have a positive impact on our environment. If I look at the last 12 months, our sustainability leadership and I have spent a lot of time working with external partners, technology partners, to really come up with frameworks of harnessing data, frameworks of being able at the beginning of a project to be able to quickly assess what the impact of that project is going to be on net zero, on nature, on biodiversity. And sometimes these are afterthoughts. And there's usually a big cost impact to then trying to retrofit after the fact. And so we've really kind of focused on the same things we've always done. We just want to be able to deliver it at pace, and we want to increase the quality of how we do it.
Arup has been a leader in applying AI to areas like flood modeling and sustainable energy design. So looking beyond those examples, where do you see the next big opportunity for AI innovation within Arup's work?
I think it is in computational design. There's a lot of math involved in architecture, design, and engineering. And current technology, or let me put it this way. in the past, the ways of doing things were either Excel macros, or you find some database that you kind of pull together to try and do your, for example, your structure analysis. But you find with AI now, there's so many different ways that you could really do your integrity analysis for your structural integrity. There's so many different ways you can really assess the mechanical integrity of whatever components you're putting into a building. There's so many different ways now that you could think about how do you assess the future impact of climate on an infrastructure. And so experimenting with that, thinking about how we prototype that, thinking about how we scale that. And we acknowledge that as a firm, we can only do so much. We are not a technology giant. We are an engineering and design firm. And so partnerships are the way to go, where we look out there and say, who's the best in class out there who we can partner with to deliver some of this innovation?
And in previous discussions, you talked a little bit about the ethical AI, right, in your discussions. And as Arup's data and AI strategy evolves, what new governance challenges are emerging and how are you preparing for them?
What we find is because we're such an innovative firm, and there's so many companies out there that are coming up with so many different types of AI models, having that governance and having guardrails around what our members, and that's what we call our people, what our members do on a day-to-day basis, and making sure they know which tools are approved for use, and also how to make sure that we don't end up with our clients' data and our own firm data on external partners or on models that are not approved, because after that data is out there, you don't know what happens to it. That is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to governance. In addition, with the new technology like AI, it allows you to build all sorts of things on your desktop if you want to. And that opens the doorway externally from a cybersecurity perspective, and so much risk. And when you think about just, for example, running our own business, if you think about fraud, if you think about scams where you can have a senior leader being cloned, and somebody pretends to be a senior leader and is instructing somebody to take a particular action, and it's a clone or it's a fraud or it's a scam, governing that and making sure that our members are aware is something that we're really focused on.
It's a really tough balance, isn't it, with the governance? Yet when we opened up, you were talking about the speed of and pace of innovation, and so what challenges are you facing as you're trying to upskill and drive engagement throughout the firm, yet mitigating some of the risk that's associated with these changes?
Engagement is not an issue.
Okay, great.
Our members are really excited and are actually pushing us, the technology leaders, to actually to provide tools that allow them to experiment, that allow them to innovate. So engagement is the least of our problems.
Okay.
And the least of our challenges. It's managing the risk, as you mentioned, to make sure that we are standing up what I like to call enterprise AI platforms that allow people to come into a well-governed space and innovate from there, and allow people to be patient as we carry out that establishment of those enterprise AI platforms. I think we've been pretty successful so far in having about 4,000 of our members all having licenses for what we call AI for everybody. And so we're continuing to work towards having all 20,000 of our members in this particular year to have a license to what we call AI for everybody.
Oftentimes, companies struggle with engagement and upskilling. So we talk about data maturity. Yeah. It's just as much about the people as it is about the platform. So how are you continuing to cultivate the mindset of data and curiosity and really that shared ownership across Arup's global teams? Because that's pretty very impressive that engagement is not an issue.
So we've done a couple things. So if you want a license for what we call AI for everyone, there is training that you have to take, and then you get your license. And so we've had people knocking at the door to say, I want to be part of the initial early adopter cohort. In addition, you really want to focus on the fundamentals of what I call data literacy. What is data? What is governance? What's data management? How do I make sure that I'm engaging with data in a safe way for the firm? So we're also running a series of global data labs where we've invited 3 or 4 of the partners that provide the underlying AI technology for us and our data technology. And we're literally going from region to region across our 5 regions and holding what we call data labs. Again, they start with initial trainings on fundamentals. If you're really interested on doing what I call fingers to keyboard, then we actually do set up trainings, what we call data labs, and you go in for 2 days and you're trained across the different infrastructure and how to handle our data. And note, it's not a hackathon.
Okay.
It's not a hackathon,
Okay.
because a hackathon, we're saying you've got a preconceived idea, you want to come in and prototype very quickly and come out with something. No, we're saying this is baseline fundamental training. It's fingers to keyboard to play around with technology, with support and trainers and coaches in the room. And for a consulting firm, that is very unusual because we're focused on billability. We want to make sure that our members are billable.
Right.
But we also recognize that for the future we choose, which is our strategy for the next 5 years, we really have to be thoughtful and mindful how we start to upskill our organization. And so we have to carve out that investment to make sure that our people have time to really think about how to learn about data, about AI, because that is going to impact the future we choose.
It really is. It sounds like Arup is really investing in your employees. Working with the broader tech community, you have had an entrepreneurial journey and a deep expertise in both corporate and startup settings. So, how does working with the broader tech and startup community influence your leadership approach today?
What it does is, again, I keep talking about pace and velocity.
Yes.
When I was in the tech industry and also as an entrepreneur, I tell people we used to have product releases every other day. We used to move really fast. And so that's why you find the product evolve as quickly as you could imagine. Now, when you are in the AEC industry, the pace is a little slower. And so I've balanced that with setting up SWAT teams where there's an idea that we need to explore and experiment with really quickly. That SWAT team goes ahead and does that. And then they bring it into the traditional way of delivery for scale. And that's brought a really nice balance between fail fast and learn quickly. And then being able to scale by harnessing the muscle of the rest of the firm. And I think that's working quite nicely.
Exactly. And it's a nice balance between that fast paced startup, agility, and then a large organization. Now, do you see some similar trends with your clients? What are their expectations when it comes to AI?
I think our clients are starting to look at where the value is. And I'll talk about that a little more tomorrow during my presentation around what does our value mean in the age of AI? Because value at the moment is composed of overhead, right? The time it takes us to do a structure analysis and wrangle through all that data and then have an engineer actually say, this is what I think the solution is going to be, and this is actually what we're actually going to deliver. There's overhead that's involved in that. And so our clients are starting to say, is there a better way and faster way and more efficient way of delivering the really excellent solutions for us? And is there a way to improve quality? And how does that impact their bottom line as well in terms of the budgets that they have for some of the infrastructure we support them with? So our clients are really putting a lot of pressure on us to harness AI so that we can then really deliver value in terms of expertise and in terms of speed and in terms of managing their budgets. Because ultimately it lands at budgets. And then when you look at maintenance and operations of the asset once it's been completed, it is very expensive to maintain some of these assets. And some of the disasters in the world were because a maintenance request was missed or nothing was triggered when a particular infrastructure or asset needed maintenance or it wasn't captured. So as part of maintenance operations as well, there's an efficiency and a productivity angle to reducing the cost of maintenance and operations and also being proactive by proactively seeing when maintenance is required. So our clients are really starting to challenge the solutions we provide because they understand that AI can help and support.
Which is great. And I remember last time we had the
Yeah.
conversation, you talked about the preparing for earthquakes, and
Yes.
it's you know, it's incredible what we can do now with technology. And now the client's expectations it's are continuing to keep up with the times, which
Yeah.
which adds that pressure on you as well and the team. So, as we look ahead,
Mm-hmm.
what AI or data trends do you believe will be most transform how we design, build, and sustain the built environment, maybe over the next 5 to 10 years?
Everyone is talking about agentic AI,
Yes.
and everyone is excited about it. I think in the next 5 years, it's not necessarily about the solutions that we will come up with in terms of innovating different ways of buildings or infrastructure or assets. I think it's that workflow efficiency that we're going to get in the next 5 years. Getting to that solution, getting to that best design, getting to that optimal design, being able to predict the cost of maintenance and operations for that asset, being able to predict the impact of climate on that asset, being able to assess within a really good tolerance of precision the net zero impact of that building, I think is where we're going to start to really see some evolution and transformation.
I agree, and just the fact, just all the things that we're going to be able to do from an environmental standpoint, I find so
Yeah.
fascinating. Living in Florida, we've just been hit with a couple of hurricanes, and just the difference over the last few years
Yep.
over the AI prediction, even in the hurricane forecast, and there's so many other things. So that excites me personally. So from your perspective, there's so many things within the AEC. Built environment, and then from a technology standpoint, what personally excites you that you with the ability for AI over the next maybe 5 to 10 years?
What really excites me is the younger generation,
Yes.
the impact on the younger generation. I have a 6-year-old, and she is thrilled each time she comes home and tells me that she can now log onto a computer. And she's been playing games on her Google Chrome at school.
Wow.
And so I can imagine how they'll be able to leapfrog and really evolve and grow really fast and be able to innovate at a pace we've never seen before. Because now using a large language model will be for them table stakes. We're having to learn how to do that in our day-to-day work. Building out an agent is what we're learning now. This will be table stakes for them. So a lot of mundane tasks, automating your grocery list, for example, simple things like automating your grocery list and then building an agent that then looks at it and says, well, okay, every 2 weeks I'm supposed to trigger an Instacart purchase so that it gets delivered to my house. There's so many things you can build little agents around. And I can imagine for the younger generation how that's going to free them up and give them a little bit more bandwidth because they can build agents by themselves to actually run their day-to-day lives. That would be incredible and transformative. So I'm very excited about the impact of AI in the next generation.
I have two sons
Yeah.
that are both in college, and even when we went to our orientation, they talked about how many different degrees were going to be available for the students by the time they graduate. And so you think about the next generation, I completely agree that this is table stakes. This is table stakes. So,
At the same time, it terrifies me.
yes.
At the same time, it terrifies me because I'm hoping that critical thinking also becomes really important. And that is also taught to this upcoming generation because the problem with AI is not only can you use it for good to really automate your life, to make it more efficient, to really be innovative, develop new products, new solutions for our way of life, predict what the future might look like so we can react today, but it also is used for a lot of disinformation around so many different aspects. And for little girls, I worry because AI is really being used in most cases to bully them online. It is really influencing their own body images because now it's very possible to do a fake image of a little girl and circulate it at school and do all sorts of really negative things that can impact mental health. So, in as much as I'm really excited about AI, I'm also terrified at what's possible if critical thinking, if ethical use, and being kind is not
Exactly.
taught to the next coming generation.
I too am very frightful. It's super exciting, but at the same time, super terrifying.
Yep.
So as you're looking at the next generation, whether it's 6-year-olds or 25-year-olds getting ready to start their career, what would be some advice that you might give the next generation, especially if they're looking to get into AI and digital?
I would say it's not folks that want to just get into AI and digital.
Yes.
You have no option
Yes.
at the moment
Great point.
to be aware, to be familiar, and to be capable of using AI. It is not an option. Every degree, every education pathway has to now infuse the ability to use AI, not just awareness, but the ability to leverage AI technology, because it is not an option and it will become the way of life. It is already becoming the way of life. So my advice would be learn and know what it is, be able to use at a basic knowledge ChatGPT. Prompt engineering is mandatory, in my opinion, for everybody. You should be able to know how to write prompts that help you harness the information that's out there. So my advice would be learn our AI in terms of being aware of it, be capable of using basic prompts to be able to harness the data that's out there.
You look at children nowadays, and they have phones. They no longer have the toys,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so looking back on over the course of your career, what lessons have stuck with you the most, and why?
Not AI related, but more around how I work with people. Always let people keep their dignity. I operate with that in mind. Always let people keep their dignity. And it helps in terms of resolving conflict. It helps in terms of motivating teams. It helps in terms of building relationships with your own peers, with partners, with vendors. Always let people maintain their dignity is one of my biggest lessons.
I love that advice. That's wonderful. So, thank you, Tembi, for joining us for the second time on the podcast. It's always an absolute pleasure having you on our show.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure as well being here, and I'm really excited about the next couple of days.
Yes, same here. And thank you also to our audience for joining us today on the Trailblazers podcast. Until next time, take care.